Welcome to this session on CAT repeaters. The objective for today's session is going to be very simple. This session is specifically designed for as stated here, the repeaters who are taking CAT either for the second, third or the fourth time. They've already taken CAT once before, and somehow or the other, they weren't able to do as well as they hoped for or as well as they desired. So the objective is going to be very straightforward and simple. What is it that they should be doing in this session? To start off with, let me just give a brief intro about my own self. I'm Gautam Baba. I'm an IIM Calcutta alum. I passed out in 2014. So these will be some tips, of the trade, as I used to call them. Some things that, I feel would help all aspirants who want to take CAT for the second time and are aiming to, secure a position in one of the top B schools. So let's start. So the CAT repeater session. Now, the most important thing for any person at this point in time is introspection. When we talk about introspection, what I basically mean is something very simple. That at this point in time, it's perfect for you to sit down and assess what exactly went wrong in CAT 2015. What is it that, didn't go as per plan? What is it that you feel you could have done better? What is it that, you've learned from? So the most important aspect of introspection is learning. Are you able to learn from the mistakes that you committed? Because if you have and you are able to learn from those mistakes, well, then actually CAT 2015 was a boon rather than a bane. So we will be talking about introspection and why this is exactly the right time for you to sit down and understand what went wrong and how you could learn from those mistakes. Another important thing at this point in time is, what are you doing currently? Where exactly are you? So later on in this PPT, we'll also go to, how I would probably segregate the kind of repeaters currently. There would be two kinds. One, greater than 80%. Second, less than 80%. Now, irrespective of which category you fall into, there are certain strengths and weaknesses that you possess. For example, one of you sitting here could say that, I'm actually good at quant and probably LRDI, but verbal and RC was where I was lacking. The other person could turn around and tell me, actually it's the reverse. I was good at verbal RC, quant and LRDI were an issue. Third person would come and say, no, all that is okay. Quant and verbal RC were fine. LRDI was a big issue because LRDI this time was actually on the tougher side. Well, the most important part is you realizing what the issue was. Once you've realized, then we can, forge a strategy as to what exactly went wrong and how we can improve in that aspect. Thus, analyzing your strengths and weaknesses becomes a very important point. Next, what is the way forward exactly? So, if we've sat down, we've assessed what went wrong, we know what our strengths and weaknesses are, and then on the basis of that, we structure a strategy to crack CAT 2016. Well, there is no reason why a 95 plus at least is not a guarantee. Hopefully, this 95 plus would actually go on to become somewhere around 98 plus. So let us see exactly what the two different kinds of students would perhaps need to do. I go back to the same thing. I segregate students into two categories, greater than 80 and less than 80 percentile. So let's look at that. Now, the first thing, as I told you, we'll come back to it, segregating it into three categories or three parts, as I had stated here, is introspection, where you are currently, way forward. So let's start with the introspection. Someone had once stated, accept it, change it, or leave it. Why I like this quote is this: accept it. Most of us actually get stuck. Most of us turn around and say, nahi yaar, wo ek section acha nahi tha. That one section didn't go well. There is something wrong with CAT. There is something wrong in the process that they have. It's not that I made a mistake. It's not that there was something wrong in what I did. You kind of want to externalize the mistake. However, it's about time that we start internalizing the mistakes. We understand how we want to change it. If we don't internalize, well, we automatically go on to the state of saying, leave it, I know better. Let's, for the time being, assume you do not know better. Let's agree to this fact that there were certain mistakes that we committed. If we can pinpoint those, half the job done. So, look back and identify your strengths and weaknesses. Try and relate to these telltale signs. So let me look at certain telltale signs that I have pinpointed. Each one of you who went ahead and took CAT, or rather, most of you who went ahead and took CAT, would have surely gone ahead and spoken about would have surely gone ahead and taken quite a number of mocks. Now, if you've taken mocks, basically, you would have identified very categorically and easily what is it that had gone wrong in your mocks. Correct? So just one sec, just to make it clear. I hope you all can hear me. If you can hear me, just type it once in the chat box. Before I continue, I hope everybody can hear me. I'm just waiting. Can somebody can type? Okay, yeah. So I got a reply from a couple of y'all. Yeah, so y'all can hear me, I'm guessing. Okay, so coming back to this now. So as I was pinpointing, most of y'all who've gone ahead and, who've taken CAT, y'all would have realized a couple of things. Number one is the fact that, the mocks were perhaps an ideal ground for you to understand what was going wrong and an ideal ground for you to actually pinpoint and create a strategy. Thus, did you all do that when you all were taking your mocks? Did you realize what was the section in which you were going wrong? Did you realize which was the section where you needed to improve? Did you realize how to improve in that particular section? So that was a very big telltale sign of where your strengths and weaknesses were. That is number one. The second telltale sign would be, which area did you find the most difficult in the paper itself? So, number one we spoke about was mocks. Number two, we go straight away to the paper itself. Now, there will be quite a few of you all who will come out and tell me, sir, LRDI was a very big issue. I completely understand that LRDI was a very big issue. However, most of you who had taken the mocks should have realized that LRDI was not difficult just for you, it was difficult for everybody who was taking the paper. Thus, identifying which questions to solve, identifying that a particular section is difficult, identifying that this section would probably be the game changer and people would score low, would have been very important. Why? Because it would have meant that out of 32 questions, if you attempted 16 and got them all correct in 60 minutes, you would probably have, got somewhere around a 90, 95 plus in that section. So rather than sitting there and realizing and, cribbing about the fact that, it's a difficult paper, how will I go ahead and solve those 24, 26 questions? Probably the important thing was realizing it's difficult, going ahead and aiming for just 16 questions and getting them correct. So, did you realize that when you were taking the CAT exam? That this is a difficult section, however, there is a way to counter it. Third thing, which topics did you practice the least last year? Very important. While you were preparing for CAT, there must have been quite a number of topics which you had identified and which you realized that you weren't good at. So generally, a human tendency is, yaar, acha nahi hu, I'm not good at it, I'll practice this the least. Well, not a correct tendency, right? However, I'll come back to this aspect a little later on in the PPT. Which type of questions you loved and always wanted to solve, sir? Why do I mention this? Because this is aspiration and inspiration. Let me explain myself. You aspire to do well in CAT. In order to do well in CAT, you need some inspiration to do well. Your aspiration was to score high. Your inspiration would be once you started taking the CAT paper, if you realized, oh, all of a sudden I have solved 5, 10, 15 questions. So each time you go into a particular section, pinpointing the questions or pinpointing the topics which you feel that you can score well in is very, very important. Sitting down and identifying questions from those topics and solving them ASAP right at the beginning would mean that suddenly 10 or 15 minutes into a particular section, you realize that, okay, lo and behold, I have already solved 10 questions. So, is it possible that 30 marks was there, ready for me to chew on? And I did not realize, however, I picked up a particular section or a particular set in LRDI in which I got stuck. I did not realize how to move out from that. I wasted 20 minutes on that particular thing. And suddenly after 20 minutes, I sat down and I realized, oh God, I've done nothing. 20 minutes and I have 0 marks to show for it. On the other hand, someone was sitting there saying, okay, 10 minutes, I've already solved one set, 12 marks to show for it. So do you realize this guy is suddenly inspired, this guy suddenly thinks things are going well, okay, it's probably my day. You, somebody seated here who spent 20 minutes doing nothing, were like, oh God, what to do? So the next thing that probably we'll look at, as I stated earlier, is where exactly are you currently now? Every day is a new beginning. Take a deep breath and start again. Realizing this and not being dismayed over what happened yesterday, not being ecstatic about what happened yesterday, both are very important things. Taking everything in your stride and being ready to handle it and being prepared to handle whatever comes your way is a very important thing. And that is what we need to look at. So, each student needs to assess his or her situation to arrive at the best conclusion, obviously. Now, let me explain this a little more clearly. When I say you have to assess his or her situation to arrive at the best conclusion. Now, say you are a guy, who's good at, say, verbal. When I say verbal, I mean you're perhaps not good at RC, but you're good at verbal. Now, what does that mean? Out of the 34 questions in verbal and RC, so 10 here, 24 here, right? That was the breakup this year. Out of the 24, there were about 5 sets, 3 sets with 6 questions each, 2 sets with about 3 questions each. Verbal, mostly concentrated on critical reasoning, para-jumble, summary. Most of all. Now, if you're good at verbal, this is where you have to maximize. Let's look at it this way. I'm a good judge of the paper. I've taken a number of mocks. I can judge any paper. I realize that the paper of CAT is easy. However, I know that in any easy paper or any mock that I have taken, a score of 60 in an easy mock generally tends to be a 95 percentile. Okay. So you know this. Why? Because you've already taken papers. You can judge papers. Now, if you know this, what you know already is that from verbal, you're going to get 30 marks. You're good at it. Let's say you get 8 right, 2 wrong. Okay, worst case scenario. All the verbal questions were non-MCQ. So no negative marking. So let me say 8 right, so 24 marks. Let's forget 30. You know 60 fetches you 95. Brilliant. From 24, you need to go to 60. How many marks is that? That's 36 marks. Net correct, 12 right. Now, if I am not good at RC, however, I do know that generally accuracy ratio in RC is 65%. Say 60%, okay? Now 60% means 3/5. That is my accuracy ratio. So say I attempted 20 questions in RC. 3/5 would mean 12 right, I'm correct? And 8 wrong. 12 right and 8 wrong means a net score of 28. 28 and 24 already means 52. Now, if 60 was going to fetch 95, I know that a score of around 52 would have fetched me somewhere around the 90 percentile mark. So I am good at verbal. However, CAT has gone against me. Why? Because the focus has shifted more to RC, less to verbal. However, understanding your situation becomes very important. Just like in cricket, we say you have to understand the situation, play according to the situation. CAT is exactly the same. If you would have played this according to the situation, scored your 24 here, waited, to pinpoint which were the RC sets that you needed to do, identified 4 of those 5 RC sets, attempted them, gone at your 60% thing, you would have still ended up scoring a 28 here and a 52 overall, which would have made it a 90 percentile. That is what I mean by assessing your situation. If somebody, however, was good at RC, would have anyways wanted to maximize this fact. So your position would have been very, very different. Understanding this, adapting to the situation becomes very, very important. Now, the need of the hour is to realign yourself with your aspiration. Think logically, you'll fall in one of the two categories. Now, I go back to what I had stated initially, that there are generally two categories of repeaters or retakers. What? Above 80, second, below 80. Now, once I've segregated these two, I'll tell you why I've segregated it. Why is 80 the magical number for me? Let's get into that. So let's look at the first category of students. The above 80 percentile. Now, for me, simple understanding of CAT, or on the basis of what I understand from whenever I've taken CAT, is you can never score an 80 percentile if you don't have basics. You might be one of those who did not prepare and still scored an 85. You might be one of those who prepared a lot and still scored an 80. In either of these two cases, here practice was an issue. In this case, probably strategy was an issue. But basics were never an issue. Overall, when I look at the picture, your basics were in place. You were ready to tackle the exam. Your basics were fit. So, what you need to do is strategize smarter ways. Two things that you need to look at. Let's see how you can do that. So as I said, 80 percentile above shows hope. Promise to make it to the 90 percentile range in the coming year. You must consider taking up a job. One important thing that I want to pinpoint, I stated, let's see how you would do that. I'll go to that. I'll handle both the categories together. But one very important point that I want to raise here. You look at the admission criteria of any B school currently. You see that the weightage to CAT has been going lower. The weightage to ACADS or WorkX has just been rising. So, please do not sit back. Do not say that I'm going to drop a year and do absolutely nothing while I prepare for CAT. Do not do that. That goes against your profile. Go ahead, take up that job, ensure that this part is being handled. Your profile is just going up. It is not stagnated or going down. And then we can start working on this. So ensure you do this. Let us look at the other one, the below 80 percentile. I'm just pinpointing these two categories, how to handle it, what the study plan should be, how you should be handling it, what is the process. I'll be getting to that, just in a few minutes. Below 80, yes. You need to work on your basics. Basics is an issue. Working on the basics is a must. You are one of those who needs to go back to the funda books. Read up the concepts. Go through the level 1 exercises. Forget level 3. Then go through the level 2 exercises. Once you've done all this, once you know that your basics are in place, once you know that your fundas are clarified, once you know that everything is in place, then you come on an equal footing with the first category, which was the greater than 80 percentile category. Only then are you on the same footing. And once you are, then there is a particular way forward. However, for you, when you are below 80, while you will obviously take up a job to prepare because it's the same as the previous one, the first or the most important is revision. CL funda books, ensure you go through the level 1 and level 2 practice exercises. Once that is done, both you, that is below the 80 percentile and above the 80 percentile, you all are now on exactly the same page. Once you all are on exactly the same page, now let's see what the action plan needs to be. Now is the time for us to work. Now is the time for us to see what we need to do. Well, while the first step towards 2016 is different for both the categories, the way forward till D-Day remains the same. If you are the above 80 percentile and the below 80, while I stated take up a job remains constant for both of you all. For you, smarter techniques. For you, level 1, level 2, getting the basics in place. Once this is done, say this hasn't happened, but this is done, now you all are almost on the same footing. So, what is it that we look at? So, we need a CAT 2016 study plan now. Now, we need to see that now that all of us are on the same footing, now that all of us are on the same platform, what is it that we need to do? How is it that we handle this particular situation? How is it that we ensure that we get that dream B school? Let's look at it. The very first thing that you need to do is analyze. When I say analyze, what do I mean? I go back to exactly what I meant right at the beginning. Find your areas of strengths and weaknesses. How would you do that is your next question. Very simple. There is something called a strength finder in all of your SIS. Go into that SIS. What you will see is each and every topic, whether it is in quant, LRDI or verbal, has been broken down into minute capsules. For each of them, pinpoint whether that is your area of strength or that is your area of weakness. Once that has been done, you know what happens. Each and every mock and test that you do, we pinpoint and we give you a report on whether you've been attempting the correct questions or not, whether you attempted questions from the areas of strength or the areas of weaknesses, whether you got the questions from your areas of strength correct or not. So is it that your areas of strength or the areas which you feel are your areas of strength are actually, not so? Is it that you got that wrong? It's very important to know that. Thus, the first thing that you need to do is go on to your SIS, fill in the strength finder, analyze your areas of strengths and weaknesses. That is step number 1. Step number 2, you need to ensure that you are preparing smart. So, the order here is a little, upside down. I'll say candidates who scored below 80 must replace this by studying of Funda books level 1, level 2. So, if I look at this, if you are one of those candidates, who scored below 80 percentile, before learning smart, you need to learn your basics. So you'll get into the, rigmarole of going through your Funda books, ensuring you get those questions, ensuring you get the fundas, ensuring you get the concepts, and solving the level 1 and level 2 questions. Once that is done and dusted, what I suggest to you is immediately go on to something that we called the Smart Cat Cracker. Now, one of the best things about the Smart Cat Cracker, which most students don't realize, is at the end of the day, the CAT exam is not an exam on mathematics. It's not an exam on English. This is wrong. It's an exam on quant. It's an exam on verbal and RC. There is a very big difference between quant and math. Let me explain it via a very, very simple example, okay? Okay. I tell you one thing, okay? In one of my test papers, I scored a 3 on 5. In the other test paper, I scored a 5 on 5. Thus, the total marks that I scored is an dash on 10. So, in one paper, I scored a 3 on 5. In another paper, I scored a 5 on 5. Total marks that I scored is an dash out of 10. Now, very simple example. We all know 5 plus 3 is 8. Very good. The options here were A, 7, B, 6, C, 8, D, say cannot be determined, simple. Or say rather than cannot be determined, I say 4. Okay. Very, very simple question. Why have I picked up this question? You will understand in, just a matter of a few seconds. I know 3 plus 5 is 8, so the answer should have been an 8 on 10, right? Very simple. Now, if you're a smart guy, if you've been following how CAT goes about it, read the question. Question was, the total marks that you secured was an dash out of 10. An is a and the. Remember? An comes before a vowel. Correct? So the answer to this question was a number which starts with a vowel. 7 starts with S, not a vowel. 6 starts with S, not a vowel. 4 starts with F, not a vowel. 8 starts with E, which is a vowel. Answer was 8 out of 10. Even if you did not know maths, now say suddenly I would have changed this complete scenario. I would have made it a very complex number system question. I would have asked you what will be the remainder. The remainder would be an. Say a simple clue wherein instead of what is the remainder, I would replace it by a sentence and dash on something. Well, the clue is there in the question and preceding the question. That meant that the answer would be something which starts with a vowel, hence the answer is 8. That is Smart Cat Cracker. Those are the smart ways in which you can crack CAT. It's not always about the mathematics, it's not about the verbal, it's about being smart, it's about understanding what the options are at your disposal. It's about understanding the language of the question. It's about understanding the mindset of a question setter. Thus, each and every one of you, my suggestion is go out there, understand the Smart Cat Cracker, take up those methods, learn from those smart ways, solve those questions. That is step number 2. What would be step number 3? Practice topic wise. Now, What you've done already is you've identified strengths, weaknesses. What you understood now is you're already on your way to smart solutions. What you're doing now is, while you understood a particular topic, you understood the smart ways of solving questions, you've solved a level 1, level 2 questions. Now what you're going to do is, you're going to solve the level 3 questions. Go on to your test gym. Go on to your test gym and solve the question. So, in Test Gym Lite, what you can see is, they have been categorically defined and divided into 3 categories of questions. Beginner, advanced and expert. Now is the right time. Sit down, go ahead, solve those questions. Ensure that by the time you're done with your Test Gym Lite, you're at a situation where you turn around and say, okay, number system mein I am already at advanced level. Give me any question from number system, I can solve it. Why? Because you practice that much. Next step, well, something very simple. You've gone from identifying whether something is a strength or weakness. You've gone to understanding the smart ways of solving. You've gone to applying those smart ways in practice questions in your test gym. Now, how about actually going ahead and applying it in your mocks? Mocks are a must do. Mocks are a must. Sit down right now. Mock 1 started today. You have roughly about, today's April, right? First day of April, exam is in November. This is the 4th month, that will be the 11th month. You know, you have about 7-8 months to go, if I take in April into consideration. 7-8 months, you should be looking at taking 30 mocks. Now, in the last 2 months, perhaps you'll be looking at taking somewhere around 10 mocks, you know, because you want to increase the frequency, 1 mock per week. So that means you still have to take 20 mocks in 5 months preceding to that. 5 months would mean 20 weeks, which would again mean roughly 1 mock per week. It's about time you start getting, cracking down on that. Why? Once you do that, go back to your identification of strengths and weaknesses which you pinpointed in your strength finder. This will be an iterative and dynamic process which keeps changing. As this keeps changing, you understand where you're going wrong. You understand whether the kind of questions you are attempting is correct or not. And that teaches you a lot. While mocks are a must, should begin as early as April, you should start taking it, formulate a strategy. The most important part of taking a mock is analyzing it. Now, this is where I come in. Again, I go to the strengths and weaknesses. When you had filled up the strength finder as a first step, and you've reached this entire stage of having taken a mock, you'll find something called a booster analysis in your mock analysis section. What the booster analysis does is something very, very simple. If a question was from your area of strength and you got it correct, well done. If it was from your area of weakness and you got it correct, risky, right? Risky shot, which you got correct. Area of weakness and you get it wrong. If I use a tennis terminology, it's like a double fault. एक तो आता ही नहीं था, ऊपर से time waste किया और गलत हुआ. Didn't know, wasted time, got it wrong. Time also gone, marks also gone. Net effect only negative. Dual negative, it's a double negative or a double fault. Well, each and every question of yours is categorized into 9 such fields. Now is the time, go there. Once you've identified your areas of strengths and weaknesses, it picks those up, and when you're analyzing, it tells you each and every question, whether it was from your area of strength, whether you got it correct, did not attempt, or you got it wrong. Each of them, whether it was from your area of weakness, got it correct, did not attempt, got it wrong. Yes, not 9, I got it wrong initially, sorry, not 9, 6 categories. So these 6 categories become very, very important. Analyzing your mocks is a must right now. So for your analyzing, CAT-score booster is always there. As I stated, in the CAT-score booster, you will be able to bifurcate each question into 6 categories. Let's look at the next thing. Read. Why do I say read? When you're doing your mocks, when you're analyzing, one thing that you need to realize is there is a particular section called RC, and in most of the exams, apart from say CAT and say NM, there is a section which is also called GK. In order to maximize in these sections reading, ensuring that your vocabulary is up to date, ensuring that you're able to read passages from diverse fields: psychology, psychometry, physiology, history, geography, literature. You are equally comfortable with all of them becomes a must. Why? Because you do not know the kind of passages that will crop up finally. Thus, ensure that you keep reading. Read for vocabulary and knowledge. As I stated, not only will it help you now, it will also help you in your GDPI processes, but more of that later. Important part. So, what is happening? Strengths, weakness, identified. Smart way through SmartCat Cracker, identified. Practicing applying that, identified. Taking mocks, identified. Analyzing your mocks, identifying. From here, ensuring iterative practice of strength and weaknesses going on in your strength finder, identified. Ensuring that side by side GK and vocab is working, identified. Most importantly, when you were analyzing your mock, you would have realized my percentile is perhaps going down in quant, or it's perhaps going down in verbal RC, which means I need practice in that particular section. Go to your Test Gym Classic, ensure you take those sectional tests. They are a must. These sectional tests have to be taken. 1 hour sectional tests, 15 such sectional tests up there, right now. This entire process ensures that you keep improving sectional wise, mock wise you're already handling. What happens next? Well, it's a simple strategy from here onwards. CAT has been handled. We need to look at the other non-CAT aspects as well. You need to, if I have a time frame in mind, analyzing that is strength and weaknesses should happen ASAP. Say I say 5th April. Prepare Smart, SmartCat Cracker. You should start this by 5th April. You should get cracking. Continuously you're working on this. Practice of topic wise. 10th April you're starting on this as well. Mocks. Well, you start working on this from 10th April as well. That means your first mock should start within the next 5 to 10 days. Analyzing, as soon as the mock ends, you start analyzing. Sectional tests, well, I would perhaps say for sectional tests, wait, May. 10th May onwards, sectional tests should start. Now, this entire process from 1 to 7 is what you should be continuing with for the next, I would say, this is April, May, June, and mid-July. So for the next 3.5 months, this is all that you should be doing. Step 8 is what you start from, say, July end. Starting with your non-CAT mocks. How do you handle the non-CAT mocks? Well, the different thing about the non-CAT mocks is nothing. Most of the mocks just have GK as an add-on, nothing else. Type of questions might change a little. So all you need to do is, indirectly while you were reading, you were also getting prepared for this. But the kind of questions differs. It's a game of time. Say in Snap, you've got to do 150 questions in about a couple of hours. In NMAT, you've got to do, about something very similar. You've got to do something around another 150 in about 120 minutes. So it's all a game of time. So you need to ensure time management comes into being. Time management in CAT is not that big an issue now that it's been demarcated as 60 minutes per section. But that is what you need to start working on, say, end July, early August time period. This needs to be your study plan. The next thing that you should be looking at right after that is revision. When does revision start? I would say September, October, revision time period should start. All that you've learned, practice. Ensure that in your test gym you are using the bookmark questions. Each and every question you bookmark, go back to it, identify what went wrong, identify how you've learned from it, go ahead. Go through the questions in your mocks that you have bookmarked. Use those questions. Take them up. Fight with them. Understand what went wrong. See now whether you've improved. You've already reached somewhere around October. Exam is in November. So just relax. You know you've done everything that you could have. You've gone ahead. You've identified your strengths and weaknesses. You've tried your level best to identify the smartest topics, smartest method out there. You picked up the topic-wise questions. Mocks you have been handling. You're analyzing them. You're analyzing them and understanding which section you are going wrong. You're also identifying strengths and weaknesses. So this kind of becomes an iterative process completely. You've also gone into the non-CAT. You've handled it. You've done your revision. One thing which, I've missed out in this entire is your Master Series mocks. When you're taking the mocks, ensure that you also take the Master Series mocks. You see how GP, Jijo, me, Shivku, we've all gone ahead and attempted those mocks, taken a complete attempt of the mock, how we look at CAT, how we look at an exam, how we analyze. It will help you strategize. That strategy might actually come to be very useful come the CAT exam. However, right at the end, should not be panicking. You should be chilling out. You should be relaxing. Last 10, 15, 20 days is not a time to take pressure. In fact, last 4 to 5 days, you should not even be studying. You should just be relaxing. You should probably be watching a couple of movies. That's it. Take your time to unwind and relax. That is basically it. That would lead you to CAT 2016. Now, what should be a week in the, of a CAT aspirant? As I stated, till October, what you should be doing is, your weekdays should be spent on your Smart Cat Cracker, sectional tests and test gym. Order should be what I had stated earlier, weekends, mocks and its analysis. October onwards, mocks and non-CAT mocks and sectional tests, irrespective of whether it is weekday or weekend. That's all that you should be doing. Pre-October, a little bit of study is happening. Post-October, not. So that means all your Smart Cat Cracker 240 odd videos. What are the Smart Cat Cracker videos? Smart ways of having solved the questions. GP's recorded them, Shivku's recorded them, Jijo's recorded them. These are all IIM guys. These are guys who've used out of the box thinking and different techniques to go ahead and crack the exam. Use their experience, understand it, go ahead, take it, solve it. What happens? By the time you reach October, it's all practice. You reach CAT, CAT is done. That's it from my end. For a repeater, you're divided into 2 specific categories. A study plan is there in front of you. Products are there for you. Be smart. Ensure you choose the right thing. Ensure you choose the right product. Ensure you utilize the right product. And ensure you crack CAT. Now I'm open for questions. Any questions, please go ahead and type them. Anybody with any questions, you can go ahead, you can type, you can ask me any questions. We're open for questions right now. Any questions from anybody? Any doubts regarding CAT 2016? Anything that you feel that wasn't answered? Any specific doubts that you have that you want clarified, cleared? Go ahead, type it in. I wait for a couple of minutes more. If not, then we'll perhaps end the session there. Okay, so somebody has asked me how to increase vocabulary. Well, but the easiest way of increasing vocabulary is 2 ways. Number 1, newspaper. Now, when I say newspaper, I am still, from that era where I sit down and I say that perhaps, you should not be going online and reading your papers. Pick up that paper in front of you. It will kind of help you. Read through the newspaper. Any difficult phrase, any difficult question, any difficult word that you see, pinpoint that, write it down, maintain a notebook. Write that word down, find the meaning, go through it. Apart from that, you have something called flashcards. Use the flashcards to your benefit. Use something called a vocab builder in the mobile app. Career Launcher mobile app, MBA exam guide. Download that. The MBA exam guide, it's categorically been stated what are the, specific questions or what are the specific words that, are generally asked more often in CAT. Utilize those words. So, newspaper, articles, reading, editorials, and the MBA exam guide and the flashcards, that should more or less suffice for your vocabulary. Don't be too worried about the vocabulary though. It automatically comes as you start reading. Another question that I see here are what are the type of topics to read to make verbal strong area? Now, if you're talking about reading to help you with verbal, I automatically relate that to reading to helping you with RC, not with verbal. Because verbal will not really improve with reading. The verbal part, which is para jumble, para completion, and those aspects, grammar and all, that needs practice, not reading. So if I go into reading to help you with RC, You need to look at, myriad topics. So sports, history, geography, psychology, physics, that means sciences, philosophy, sociology. All these topics you need to be able to read. So what you should basically be doing is you should read up a lot of editorials of newspapers, should also go online and search for specific articles. If you look at your Funda books of Career Launcher, we've kind of categorized all your RC topics into these 4, 5, 7, 8 themes as well. Read those particular themes. Try identifying what went wrong, how the author thinks, what are the different aspects to it. Identification of that is what is going to take you far. And ensure that when you are reading, don't limit yourself to fiction or non-fiction. One type is not enough. You have to go across. The gamut is something that you need to be looking at. Next question I see here, what should be the approach to solve DILR, how to prepare? See, there are two ways of answering this question. Okay, to solve DILR, if I have to talk about, two specific ways. For DILR, number one, I would divide you into two different kinds of people. Number one, if you're not good at it at all, then you need to get down and dirty, which means every data that has been given. So let me give you an example. Say 5 people, 5 different job profiles, 5 different companies. And the question is basically which person, which job profile, which company. There are many ways of solving it. The easiest way of getting dirty and solving it, say the people are Ram, Sham, Mohan, Kutum and say Naveen. And say the 5 jobs are accountancy, physicist, doctor, mathematician, and anything, say driver, and companies, say I say JP Morgan, I say say PNG, say ITC, say Twitter, say Facebook. Now, every data that is given, start filling it up here. Tick, wrong, tick, wrong, tick. That is how you need to go about it. Get dirty. Don't be smart. Don't read one line and say, oh, acha, so Ram cannot be this and this. Side mein likh liya. That's not how you go about it. Every data you made a dirty table, pinpointing. Let it take time. You have 8 sets which you need to solve in 60 minutes. Well, if you end up solving 5 to 6 sets in 60 minutes with 85 to 90% accuracy, don't worry, you've crossed a 95-97 percentile in DILR. So get down and dirty. The second kind is people who are good at it but don't know the smart ways. Well, then you need to be smart. You need to ensure that you are looking at the options. Looking at options when you're solving questions become very important. What happens is those options help you fill up these gaps. Each and every time you will not need to go through the sentences that have been given. You can just look at the options, fill up the gaps, and you're done. So my first thing is DILR, get dirty. Go through the Funda books. In the Funda books, what you will see is each and every exercise has 15 to 20 questions accompanying that particular set. It kind of takes you through all possible questions that could have been asked on that set. Go through that. Get ready. Be ready to attack. Once you are done with that, practice. Go through the practice exercises at the end of the book. Go through Test Gym. Go through Test Gym Classic. Go through SmartCat Tracker videos. It will help you identifying this level 2. That is how it will help you. Next question is how to crack TISSNET, especially GK. Well, in TISSNET, GK is very simple. You can identify it. It's 2 kinds, static, current affairs, mostly revolving around social issues. How to tackle it? Well, the Government of India site, there is a particular site which identifies all social issues and all social, not only the issues but also the projects and all that the government has sanctioned, who heads which project, how the things are happening. Go to the GOI site, read up. Before the TISSNET exam, we come out with a compendium specific to TISSNET. We come out with a social all the social terminology, all the social movements that have happened, everything related to social work and stuff, because TISNET kind of, focuses on that aspect of it. So don't worry about that. We will come out with that specific to it. But what you can do from your end is, starting today, start going on to the Government of India website and looking at it. Another question is, how many hours needed to prepare for working below 80 percentile aspirant? So you're a working guy, you're a below 80 percentile guy, you need to. So as I stated, there are a number of processes that you need to go through. My simple point is, today onwards, give yourself 2 hours per day, every single day, with one mock every weekend, which means a 3-hour mock every weekend with analysis. This continues up till July. From August to you say about October, you need to increase this to about 5-6 hours per day. But now 2 hours per day to ensure that your basics are in place. So that about answers all the questions that has been. No, there's one more. Does it matter if we drop after graduation if I am below 80 percentile? No, it does not matter at all. However, as I stated, if you're below 80 percentile, there are many institutes that have weightages for WorkX, that have weightages for your academics. So please do not miss out on that opportunity. Try, if possible, not to drop a year now. Now try to work. If you've already dropped a year, it's okay. But now you have 1 year in hand before your the next intake starts. Please go ahead and take up a job. It is only going to add on to your profile. Please go ahead and do that. So that's about it for all the questions. Thank you very much. I hope your questions were answered. And all the very best. Okay, just before I leave, I see another. Does NGO work experience add profile? No, it does not. NGO work experience does not add points to profile. Not at all. Proper full-time work experience in a company. Okay, thank you very much. I hope this session helped you out. This is where I would like to end the session.